I'm DJ Trevino.
I'm Star Trevino.
Gracie Trevino.
Ricardo Trevino.
And I'm Samantha Trevino. Today I will be speaking on how the relationship between law enforcement and society is poor. So police officers were put into society to serve their communities and protect the public. They are known to many as heroes, but sadly in the world we live in today, they are now being seen as targets or threats. Today I will be speaking on how we can fix the relationship between law enforcement and society and cause the trust to become bonded. The main points of my speech will be how officers and society are starting to turn their backs on each other, and how the lack of trust between society and law enforcement has caused many problems in the world, and what we can do to fix the relationship between law enforcement and society. Society is starting to turn their backs on officers because they are starting to take matters into their own hands. They don't feel a need to be calling officers when they can just do it themselves. This is starting to lead to violence and them taking illegal actions against law enforcement. Officers, on the other hand, are starting to become more cautious of how they approach the situations, and in some cases, start taking illegal actions as well. They don't put a lot of effort into their job, which is starting to make society feel unsafe, and them as well. So a quote from Deputy Sheriff Ricky Trevino states, "Officer safety to me means the ability to remember that as a law enforcement officer, I am still human. Just because I am wearing a badge and a uniform does not make me invincible. It affects my family because if I do not respect officer safety and get myself hurt or killed, it can mean a lack of income for the household, or even worse, my daughter losing her father for the rest of her life. Officer safety is key and should always be #1 priority in the field of law enforcement." So then, now that we have talked about the problem being caused because of the little trust there is between law enforcement and society, we will now talk about the problem this has caused for our whole world. So crime rates are starting to be higher due to people taking the matters into their own hands. An article from Vox.com by German Lopez on November 14, 2018 states, "When people don't trust the government and criminal justice system, they are less likely to rely on the law to solve their conflicts, and that might make them more likely to try to solve conflicts on their own, which can lead to violent and unlawful resolution. There is a need for officers everywhere, as no one is willing to risk their life anymore, and just because they don't think that there is a big enough reward when there are many others that want to harm them." One of my favorite interviews was with Officer Bobby Coleman from the Scottsbluff Police Department stated, "One of the worst feelings is knowing that there's always going to be a target on your back, no matter how hard you're trying to work to protect others." Law enforcement and society don't trust each other, so when a crime happens, everyone is working on their own to try to solve it. There is no mutual trust. So the lack of trust causes there to be a lack of communication, as no one is telling each other what's happening. So now that we talked about what is caused because of our problems, we'll talk about how we can fix it. So I think there needs to be more activities that allows officers to get to work with society. This will allow there to be a more understanding between them. So officers could go to school and teach children what they really do. That way they're not conflicted by just seeing what they know about in the media. This also allows them to get a bigger insight of what they're really getting themselves into. They could also keep everyone informed with cases so that communication isn't misinterpreted. This allows the communities to know that they can trust law enforcement to keep them up to date and not kept out of the loop. So going back, I have talked about why it's important for there to be mutual trust between law enforcement and society. The problem is that there is little trust between law enforcement and society. This caused there to be many problems, such as higher crime rates and officer shortages. The solution for this would be for law enforcement to become more involved with the community so everyone can see we are all reaching for the same goal. Peace.
TJ Star Mom.